The diverse nature of student writing with varying student needs require a more customized approach to feedback to be more effective. This is especially challenging if we are working with larger student groups and with limited time constraints. A lot of things need to be kept in mind to make sure the feedback is effective and efficient. In this module, we will look at the different aspects of feedback that make it more effective. We will also look at the various contributing factors that might help us plan better. Let us begin by looking at the word feedback that we use so often and use it in studio, jury, and various courses. What do we essentially mean by it? Feedback is any type of input and engagement on the student work. This could be a review comment that the student gets on their final work as part of jury or written review along with grades, or it could be comments during the ongoing exercises on drafts and process sheets with the intention to get students to do more or to adopt a different approach. The focus could be simply on appraising the current status of work and skills, or it could be on helping students become aware of the existing knowledge gap, or it could be to not just identify and explain the existing knowledge skill gap, but also to show possible improvements. Each of these intentions for feedback are valid and need to be thought through, keeping in mind what exactly do we want to achieve through the feedback. What is it that we want the student to do with this feedback? When the focus of feedback is on reviewing the skill level of the student, identifying areas of improvement, and to provide ways to remedy them, the focus is on student learning and teaching student to problem solve with the expectation to improve. This is what is called formative feedback. On the other hand, the final piece of feedback that the student receives at the end of the final submission may or may not include everything mentioned above, but its focus is more on providing a summary feedback of what the student has managed to achieve and what are the potential areas of improvement. However, there is no expectation here that the student will implement the suggestions given and rework their work. These comments are meant to appraise the student and leave them with some pointers to reflect on and keep in mind. This is what we call the assessment feedback. It is important for us tutors to keep this distinction in mind so that we are able to give effective feedback. How often we encounter feedback that is simply summarizing the work that we have done but does not give us any insights regarding the quality of work. Or the summary simply praises the decisions we have made but does not give us any specific pointers regarding potential issues. Or in another instance, where when the feedback simply provides the solution without encouraging us to reflect and decide on our own what solutions will work best with the given constraints. Or the other extreme, where the feedback is simply pointing out to all the flaws in our work, leaving us feeling inadequate and incompetent. Each of these styles of feedback have one thing in common. They all are focusing only on one aspect and are lopsided in their approach. As a result, in each instant, the student's relationship with their work, their ability to improve, and the way they see themselves is negatively impacted. In order to have effective feedback, what is needed is a balance between all of the aspects and to know when to prioritize which style. This can be achieved only through clear understanding of our expectations and goals for the students. When we think about what we want to achieve from feedback, most of us instinctively would respond, of course, to help students learn and improve their work. However, this is too broad. When setting expectations, it is important to visualize a stepwise process in actionable terms as part of learning or performance improvement. This could mean focusing on performance and guiding students to resolve issues and improve drafts, which is a goal oriented approach to feedback, or enabling students to learn so they can apply these skills to future drafts, which focuses on self efficacy. A feeding forward approach that focuses on closing gaps in future understanding or learning needs, and motivating students to engage and participate actively. When we look at feedback in a writing course, a common misconception is that the focus is on improving language and providing copy editing feedback. This is often at odds with the learning objectives set for the course or for a specific module. For instance, if we bracket out language, what do we want students to learn by the end of the course or the exercise? Is our intention simply that the students produce grammatically correct text, or do we want them to logically piece together coherent text, become aware of and follow genre specific conventions, and consider the reader's needs? When it comes to argumentation, do we want students to create an argument that sounds good, or to be able to identify and rectify declarative statements and sweeping generalizations in their draft, and use various types of evidence appropriately, anticipate and address counter arguments, thereby constructing logically robust arguments? This clarity about the purpose of our feedback only comes when we have clarity about the course objectives, learning outcomes, assignment expectations, and rubric. Feedback must align with these aspects. Ultimately, feedback should go beyond simply flagging errors to highlight existing knowledge gaps and provide tools and approaches to help students address these gaps, whether through scaffolding, guiding questions, or both. Considering the amount of work and deep engagement required with students' work while managing tight deadlines, we need feedback to be both effective and efficient. While we often use effective and efficient feedback interchangeably, it is important to understand the difference so that we can make informed decisions when giving feedback. In a broader sense, effective feedback helps the student improve their text and is easier to integrate and implement. On the other hand, efficient feedback maximizes the effectiveness of feedback within the limited time and resources available. Time is a crucial factor for both tutors and students, which is why it is essential to strike a balance between effectiveness and efficiency. The question is, how do we strike this balance between quality and quantity? To ensure we review drafts for all the students in our class, we need to provide consistently good quality feedback that is delivered on time. To achieve this, it is important not to get carried away by our overzealousness and enthusiasm, flagging every possible improvement in a student's work. Instead, we must identify key issues that, when addressed, will significantly improve the overall quality of the draft. This approach also moderates the number of comments, enabling students to focus on a manageable number of improvements while producing better drafts. A clear grading rubric and alignment with the learning outcomes of the exercise are invaluable tools to guide the focus of formative feedback. One of the most challenging aspects of giving feedback is prioritizing and identifying key issues that students can address to improve the overall quality of their drafts. To start with, we should identify a hierarchy of concerns in the text. This can be broken down into three levels. 1. Global level concerns. These affect the foundation and coherence of the text. 2. Local level concerns. These focus on paragraph level coherence. And 3. Sentence level concerns. These involve grammar and syntax. Global level concerns include core elements like organization and structure, where we ask, when looking at the draft, Is there logical flow and progression between sections? Are there effective transitions? Is the purpose and focus of the text? Is the thesis clearly identifiable? And content development related concerns, such as are claims supported with relevant evidence or reasoning? This often requires guiding students to move beyond presenting opinions to providing substantiated arguments. In local level concerns, the focus is on paragraph effectiveness. We look at paragraph unity and coherence, where we question, are similar ideas grouped together and is each paragraph centered around a clear main idea? Uh, or style and tone and register. Here, our focus is to see, are is to style and tone aligned with the genre and audience. For instance, a persuasive concept note should not read like a casual blog post, or else it will lose its effectiveness. The sentence level concerns include grammar and syntax. While these issues are often the most obvious ones to notice, they should not be addressed first and foremost. They should only be addressed once all the other concerns, higher order concerns, are resolved. Think of it this way: there is no point in perfecting the grammar of the paragraph that needs to be rewritten for organizational reasons. When giving feedback, resist the urge to start with surface level corrections. Remember, our goal is to help students become better thinkers and writers and not just error free writers. Sample to understand how we, as tutors, make choices to leave selective comments based on the hierarchy of concerns. Take a moment to read the text. Solar panels should be installed on the north face of the building to maximize energy collection. Since sunlight is strongest during the middle of the day, placing panels on the north side, which has more wall space, will generate more electricity. The south side has too many windows, so it is not suitable for solar panels. Here, the student has identified that the solar panels must be installed on the north face of the building and provided reasons for this recommendation. It also includes that the fact that the outside has too many windows and hence it is not suitable for solar panels. While there are also minor language errors, the overall text seems coherent at surface level. However, there are core issues here. The main argument is flawed because the student is conceptually incorrect. Even if the language is fixed, the text would remain incorrect because the recommendations are based on a misunderstanding. As tutors, we want to engage with the global level concern. The student has misunderstood or is confused about the principles of solar energy and sunlight exposure. As a result, the recommendations drawn are incorrect. Simply stating this will not help the student rectify the issue. Therefore, the tutor's comments should also include steps for the students to take next. A final comment could read something like, this argument misunderstands solar panel orientation. Panels should face south in the northern hemisphere to maximize sunlight, not the north side for wall space. Revise by researching solar energy principles and prioritizing sunlight exposure. If the south side is unsuitable, propose alternatives like rooftop panels or adjustable angles. This feedback focuses on the global concern of conceptual understanding and argumentation. Here is another sample of student text. Take some time to pause the video and read the text. The building needs fire exits. There are 200 occupants expected. Each floor needs 2 exits to ensure safe evacuation. The occupancy determines exit width, but the specific calculations have not been finalized yet. The building is 6 stories tall. Emergency lighting will also be installed near the exit, but this is not yet reflected in the plans. The structure is a steel frame. Fire rating is important to ensure compliance with safety and regulations. Steel loses strength when exposed to high temperatures, making it a crucial concern in the event of a fire. The steel requires a protective coating to meet fire safety standards. Other materials were considered for fire resistance, but steel was retained for its structural efficiency. One thing that immediately stands out is how the sentences are choppy and disrupt the flow of the text. But that's not the only issue. The text contains relevant information, but it is scattered, making it difficult to form logical connections. The feedback needs to address this larger issue of logical flow and organization, which will significantly improve the text's overall readability. Tutor comment could read something like the information here is relevant but lacks logical connections, making it difficult to follow. Try to group similar information together and build causation, that is, cause effect relationships, so that the connections are clear. For example, organize from larger to smaller details. Begin from number of floors, occupants, and connect this to safety requirements. This way, all related information is in one paragraph and logically sequenced. Try to apply the same logic throughout the text. Feedback is largely subjective and responsive to individual student text, and there should not be a one size fits all approach to feedback. However, we can still identify common components that make feedback effective and improve the likelihood of students implementing it. The implementation or incorporation of feedback largely depends on two factors. One, whether the student understands what we are asking them to do, and two, whether the student agrees with the comment. Nelson and Schrun propose that understanding can be achieved by clearly summarizing what the student has done. This allows students to quickly check if their intentions have been correctly interpreted, and picking specific details to identify the issue, locating where the issue is, and explaining it. To improve the chances of students agreeing with the feedback, the tone and register of feedback are very important. Common strategies that we can use to achieve this are praise, constructive feedback, and clear articulation. Find a specific instance in writing that the student has done well and compliment it. Then sandwich criticism with praise, and reassure the student that the task they need to do next is manageable, and use clear language to avoid confusion. The two sample comments we reviewed earlier demonstrate these principles. Here is another sample feedback comment. Your analysis of urban spaces shows strong observation skills. The main argument about public spaces would be stronger with specific examples. Consider including 2 to 3 examples from your site analysis to support each claim. This will help reader better understand your insights. The comment begins with praise, focusing on specific aspects like analysis and observation skills. Next, it locates the key issue that the argument is weak and needs to be strengthened. Then, it scaffolds a solution by suggesting how to strengthen the argument by using examples to support claims. Finally, it reiterates the benefits of incorporating the feedback. Generally, the recommendation is to leave two types of feedback: summary comments and inline or local comments. Summary comments appear at the top of the draft and are the first thing students read. Their purpose is to provide an overview of the work, what is working and what is not. Focus on 2 to 3 recurring key issues, for example, lack of transition between paragraphs. Offer concrete examples or tips that students can apply not only to this draft but across future drafts as well. Explain any linked concept which would help student bridge the knowledge gap. In inline or local comments, flag specific errors in text to help students revisit and identify or locate the issue. Simply identifying the issue is insufficient. At least once or twice explain what the issue is. Rather than providing direct corrections, ask leading or guiding questions to help students arrive at the solution themselves. When giving directive comments, mention the rationale behind the recommended corrective action. This will encourage the student to notice similar issues and rectify them on their own in the draft. Finally, here are the key characteristics of effective feedback that we want our feedback to reflect. It needs to be timely so that while it is delivered while students still have time to act on it. It needs to be clearly phrased and articulated, which means that the comments avoid any sort of ambiguity or confusion. Feedback needs to be actionable, proportionate to the time students have to work on the draft, and finally, it needs to be student centric. Needs to be adjusted based on individual students' need, knowledge, and skill level.